Joining us now is Vivian Balakrishnan. He's Singapore's foreign minister. Minister, fantastic to have you on First Move. I bet that's the most unique way you've ever been introduced to do an interview.
Yes,
but
indeed.
I have to say,
It's great to see you, Julia.
I watched that and I absolutely loved it. What can I say? Talk to me about plans to get more people vaccinated, using this and other methods, of course, too.
Well, it's corny, but it's effective.
Loved it.
It certainly got the message out there and got attention.
Now, I mentioned that around 2/3 of people have yet to receive a vaccine, and there has been at least some degree of speculation that perhaps Singapore's looking to use the UK model, perhaps vaccinate people with one dose and have a bigger gap between the second dose. Is that being considered just to get more people vaccinated quicker?
Well, actually, we've already decided to do that. Our key focus now is to roll out vaccination as quickly as possible. In fact, we've just aimed to double the pace of vaccination. Right now, as of today, about 38% of all Singaporeans have received the first dose. In terms of receiving 2 doses, it's about 29%, so about 1/3 of our population, which is not bad. The main limiting factor really is the supplies. In terms of our infrastructure to deliver the jabs into arms, all that's all in place. I'm also very glad to say that we don't have significant vaccine hesitancy. And you just watched that rather corny video. It's a way of just getting people's attention, explaining it in a humorous way, and yet a very serious message that this is life-saving and this is the way we need to get out of this box that COVID-19 has trapped us in for the last 1.5 years.
We certainly all feel it, and I refuse to call it corny, by the way. I love that video.
Okay, great. I'll let them know.
Thank you. How quickly can you get those supplies? You mentioned it. This is not a problem of vaccine hesitancy. This is simply having the supplies available. What can you tell us and to tell those Singaporeans watching how quickly they can hope to get either their first dose or perhaps their second in the future?
Well, right now, we've actually opened the vaccination program to all Singaporeans who are 40 and above. And our next step is that we're going to offer vaccination to our school students, the teenagers, following which it'll be open season for everyone in Singapore. So all this is going to happen within the next 2 months or so. So watch this space. You're going to see a great acceleration. But it's worth taking a step back and to ask why we're in such a hurry. First point is that COVID-19, unfortunately, is a permanent resident in humanity. It's endemic. It's not going to go away ever. Second point, and this is one which we're getting through, in fact, in Singapore right now, is that variants will continue to evolve and will continue to challenge us. The only thing in the long term is to make sure that the population has immunity at sufficient levels. And there are only 2 ways to achieve that. You either get infected, in which case there's a real risk of mortality, as we've seen in other parts of the world, or vaccination. So what we're trying to do right now is double down on vaccination, keep public education going, make sure facts and not misinformation are available, and then to be able to get on in the next phase with living with this virus, which is never going to go away completely. So that's the strategy. The rest of it is execution. It's really about logistics, it's about planning, it's about communicating, it's persuading, reassuring, and so on and so forth.
And sometimes it's about tough decisions, and you've done that in the last 24 hours. You've suspended the Singapore-Hong Kong travel bubble. You've also, in recent days, made the decision to cancel the World Economic Forum, Davos being held in August in Singapore. Is this all out of an abundance of caution?
It is an abundance of caution. But I think it's better to lean on that side and to maintain credibility, to maintain that reputation for reliability and trust. I mean, I can't overstate the case for maintaining trust. Because again, if you project, say, 6 months from now, in 6 months' time, the United States would have had the majority of your population vaccinated. It will join countries like Israel and the rest of it. Singapore, we will certainly be in that league as well. The question then, as you open up the global economy, is how will travel arrangements resume? Now, first point I would make with respect here is that we're not going to go back to pre-2020 in the next year or even two. It's going to take time. Second point is that as countries reach the safer shores post-vaccination, I think you'll see some stratification in terms of the travel arrangements that will be possible between countries or areas which are relatively safer. And we want to make sure we're in that group. The third point is to understand that this virus is a smart, sneaky virus, and the situation can vary, can fluctuate very, very rapidly. I don't particularly like bubbles because if you think about it, by definition, bubbles are fragile. Bubbles can expand and collapse very, very quickly. So we need to be ready to accept that these will be the arrangements going forward in the next 1 or 2 years. Things will be volatile and arrangements will always be subject to change.
Minister, in light of everything that you just said, do you still feel confident sending your athletes to the Tokyo Olympics? Clearly, Japan is wrestling with what to do with the Olympics. They're still going ahead at this stage. Do you think a decision needs to be made about perhaps postponing again, perhaps cancelling it, particularly given everything you just said and the decisions you're making for your nation and your people?
Well, clearly, we'll have to see what the situation is like closer to the date. But let me say this. I do have confidence in the Japanese administration. They know what they're doing, and I'm sure they will do their best to make sure that if they proceed, that all our athletes will be safe. So as of now, we're prepared, and we'll take all the necessary precautions. And obviously, in the case of the Singapore delegation, I mean, you know that we will be vaccinated as well.
Yes.
And in addition to that, we'll take all the other necessary precautions. I mean, in the case, mask wearing, social distancing, all the measures that you have to take to make sure you're not in high-risk environments. So precautions can be taken. The point I'm trying to make is that you've got to accept that this will be a world where you need to be flexible. You will have to take a risk-based approach. It can't be a binary yes-no. It's simple, but that's not the way the world is going to be.
This is our life now, and we have to accept it, and we have to deal with it and get on with our lives too. Foreign Minister, I agree. Quick question, because in the last 24 hours, the US administration is launching an investigation into the origins of COVID. Do you support that investigation?
Well, let me take a step back. The origin of COVID-19 is of major significance, both scientific and public health. Second point was we do need all the facts. And on this score, transparency, radical transparency if need be, would be very helpful. The third point is that we should try to avoid politicizing this question. So much of the tragedies and unnecessary suffering of the last 1.5 years, frankly, has been because the responses have been politicized. So I hope, and speaking as a doctor myself, I hope that these very important scientific and public health questions can be dealt with transparently, openly, fairly, and in a spirit which adds to human knowledge and makes our world safer, rather than gets caught in political polemic. But let's wait and see. I mean, clearly we are not privy to all the facts yet, and we will have to see where the facts lead us to in due time.
Minister, if we take the politics out of it, and very quickly, is China capable of, I'll quote you, radical transparency?
I hope so. Look, the Chinese administration is a smart administration, and both for their own public health domestically, as well as their reputation internationally, I'm sure they're fully committed to making sure that both they and the rest of the world get to the bottom of this mystery. So I would cut them some slack, and let's judge on the basis of facts, and let's try to be as impartial, in fact, as scientific as possible. And so that's what I hope, but only time will tell.
Facts first and the science always.
Yes.
So it's always a pleasure to have you on, and please don't forget to thank whoever produced the video. We loved it.
I will. I'll certainly convey that.
Singapore.
Take care, Julia. Stay safe.
Thank you. You too. We'll speak soon.